Okay, so the first one that we talked about as a first item that we have to know for the interest rate was the present value, right? So the present value is very simple to be calculated. Imagine you gave me a simple loan, okay? So let's say we have simple loan. The amount is how much? 100 currency unit. The time is for 1 year. And you expect to receive $110. So the 100 currency unit is the original amount borrowed, known as what? The principal. So this is the principal. The 10 is the extra cost that we have it here, that I pay for borrowing that money, which we call it what? The interest. Okay, so 100 simple loan for 1 year to receive 110, that the 10 year would be the interest. Okay, so the simple interest rate, the simple interest rate, would be what? Would be this interest that the borrower is supposed to pay over the total amount, that is the principal, 100. Okay. So it will be 10%. So this 110 that we have here can be calculated by this 10% based on the principle that we have here. So we can say 100 times 1 plus this 10%. That would be 110 currency units. Okay, so very simple to calculate the interest rate, the simple interest rate based on the information that we have from the simple loan, and the opposite way to know that how much we have to pay by considering the interest and also the principal that we receive. So totally we can calculate it simply like this with the 110 to pay it. Okay, so if we consider the different years, this is for the 1 year, okay, for the first year. For the second year, it might be different. So if we consider, for example, here as today, so we might have 100 here, and then at the year 1, it would be what? By increasing this 10, okay, the interest, it would be 110. So for the second year, if you want to continue to second year, the amounts that we might have would be what? So for year 2, we will have 110 times what? 1 plus 0.1, or this 10% that we had in here. So this time, this 110 will be used to calculate for the next year the amounts that we might have, okay? So we can say that this 110 was also equal to 100 times 1 plus 10%. So 100 times 1 plus 0.1 and times 1 plus 0.1. That is what? 100 times 1 plus 0.1. That's good. Okay. So this would be the amount for the second year. And if we want to calculate the year 3, simply this 2 should be 3, right? So 100 for year 3 times 1 plus 0.1, 3, okay? So we can say for year n, we can expect 100 times 1 plus 0.1 to the power of n be the formula to calculate the different years. Okay, so that is for the end of n years as the formula. It will help us to calculate different years. Okay. So discounting the future for example, 3 years would be what? Would be the opposite of whatever we calculate now. Okay. So if we want to get to this principle, that is the 100, by discounting the future for some years, for example, here for 2 years or here for 3 years, we have to do the opposite calculations and divide this by what? By this part. Or for 3 years, we can divide this by this part. And that would be the discounting of future for the years, right? So we can say the present value PV is equal to what? To future value, okay, the values that we have for different years over this part of the equation that is what? 1 plus whatever is the interest, okay? So I, the interest, similar to 10% that we have here, the power of n, okay? So This would be the present value and the relation with the future value. Okay? So let's explore the concept with a simple example. Imagine you've just won a contest, a radio contest, for example. Okay, so imagine that there is a contest publicly for everybody to participate from the radio station, that they want you to answer a question, okay, like, yes, a mysterious sound that you can hear from this radio, or a kind of music that is not so much well known. And they promise you what? They promise you, for example, to give you a prize for 1,000. Okay? So imagine that you will receive a big prize, okay? If you win this contest. And at first, but this 1,000 currency unit will be delivered, for example, for the next 20 years. So not all at once, but all this big prize. But let's say payment by 1,000 for how long? For 20 years. Okay, so totally we can say $20,000 currency unit. So let's say this is the annual payment of 1,000 for 20 years. So for the next 20 years, they promise you 1,000 for each year. Okay. So this 20,000 might seem first to be the total amount, the real amount that you won from this contest, if you could guess correctly at the serious sound or that old music. But if we do a kind of calculation, we can see that this is not like that. Why? Because for the first year, we have what? For the first year, as it is promised, we have 1,000. So for first year, we have exactly 1,000 currency unit. For the second year, what might happen? We have 1,000, okay? And now we have to consider the present value with the interest rate. Okay, let's imagine that the interest rate is 10%, so it would be 1 plus 10% for the second year. For the third year, we have what? 1,000 over 1 plus 10% S squared. So it is for the third year. And for year 20, it should be discounted like what? 1,000 over 1 plus 0.1 for 10% to the power of 19. And if we calculate all of these and make a summation, the summation would be much less than expected 20,000. Okay, so the relation between the present value and the future value is very important to be considered when we want to do right calculations for where we might earn if the time is there and if the time is also considered.